LinkedIn presents.
Good morning. I'm your host, Michael Kovnat, and this is the Next Big Idea Daily, where we explore big ideas to help you unlock your full potential. So are you a mother? Do you have any mothers in your life? If you do, you know that the title mom comes with a lot of baggage, especially in this country. American motherhood is weighed down by a set of seemingly impossible expectations. Be selfless, yet accomplished. Nurturing, yet independent. Do it all, even if you have to do it alone. But that vision of motherhood is built on myths, and those myths are making parenting harder. Nancy Reddy, an award-winning writer and professor, has written a new book called The Good Mother Myth, Unlearning Our Bad Ideas About How to Be a Good Mom. And she'll join us to share her big ideas right after this quick break.
From LinkedIn News, I'm Leah Smart, host of Everyday Better, an award-winning podcast dedicated to personal development. Join me every week for captivating stories and research to find more fulfillment in your work and personal life. Listen to Everyday Better on the LinkedIn Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Have you been feeling the effects of stress, burnout, or anxiety at work? Listen to the Anxious Achiever podcast to rethink the relationship between your career and your mental health. Get the Anxious Achiever wherever you find your podcasts and walk away with practical advice you can implement today.
Hi, this is Nancy Reddy, and I'm the author of The Good Mother Myth. Today, I'd like to share with you 5 of my key insights from writing and researching this book. Number 1, our myths of motherhood set us up for heartache. Before I had my first son, I had a really clear image of who I'd be as a mother. I pictured myself sitting by the window in the nursery, the baby cuddled in a sling against my chest as I wrote. I wanted both to believe that I'd be totally transformed by the automatic, selfless love of motherhood, and that I'd be able to go right on with my life as I'd planned. I can see now that it's an impossible trap. But I'd absorbed a whole lifetime of mythology around motherhood. For years, I'd heard that having a baby was like seeing your heart walking around outside your body. And I'd understood that to mean that the love I'd feel for my child would be simple and easy and instinctive. So when that wasn't what happened, when I struggled with breastfeeding and sleep deprivation, and what I know now was a pretty significant case of postpartum anxiety, though it went undiagnosed and untreated at the time, I was sure it was my fault. Those myths of motherhood keep us lonely and isolated, certain that we're the only ones who aren't measuring up. And because they obscure the boundary between ordinary struggles and more significant postpartum challenges, they're bad for maternal mental health. If we give up those myths of motherhood, we can turn our gaze instead to the particular people we're raising and the meaning and magic to be found in that kind of care and love. Our ideas about what makes a good mom have never been about what babies and moms need. Many of our present-day ideas about what makes a good mom have their origins in the work of mid-century psychologists and psychoanalysts who set out to study what babies needed to become healthy adults and productive workers. During World War II, more than 1.5 million mothers of young children had worked as part of the war effort, and that work was made possible by state-supported daycares. But when the war ended, urgency about getting male veterans back to work, combined with growing Red Scare concerns about the consequences of shared childcare, meant sending women from factory floor to suburban homes. It's no accident that the science of the day, which argued that what a baby needed most was the total and undivided attention of his mother, echoed those broader cultural concerns. In other words, sorry, ladies, science says you have to go home. That long history has consequences for mothers and families today. So much of what's really hard about motherhood in America is a product of culture and economics. The absence of paid leave and affordable childcare, the pressure many women feel to do it all, the lack of community to make caregiving less lonely. From the 1950s to today, women have discovered that the actual work of mothering can be joyful and transformative. But the institution of motherhood, with its roots in a thoroughly outdated and misogynist social order, often feels like kind of a scam. New moms need more support and less advice. When Dr. Benjamin Spock's Common Sense Book of Baby and Child Care was published in 1946, its opening line became immediately famous. Trust yourself. You know more than you think. The new moms of the baby boom loved Spock, and many women who wrote to him reported keeping one copy in the nursery, another in the kitchen, and a third in the glove box, so they'd never be more than an arm's length from his reassuring voice. Of course, there's a paradox in his imperative to trust yourself. If you already know what to do, why do you need to buy a 500-page book about how to raise your kid? Today, we're all awash in a flood of parenting advice online. I'm not convinced that any of it has made us more competent caregivers, and it certainly hasn't made us more confident. For the women in Spock's day, they at least knew that every time they looked up NAP or colic or first foods, they'd find the same answer. But today, there's an infinite scroll of advice and experts and parenting hacks and commenters weighing in. What would actually be helpful in just about every case would be more support and community, not a list of parenting hacks or scripts to manage your kid's tantrum or ease the bedtime drama. It's more comfortable for a lot of us to scroll Instagram in search of a parenting expert than to tell a friend or family member we're struggling. But having practical help from someone who can hold the baby or fold the laundry or just hang out would do a lot to make new parenthood manageable and even fun. Our bad ideas about moms are bad for dads, too. As I've watched my husband and other men I know enter parenthood, I've realized that our bad ideas about mothers hurt fathers, too. If we think women are capable of becoming supermoms, our expectations for fathers are kind of comically low and insulting. The books and websites I turn to for tips on everything from swaddling to sleep training to first foods were all aimed at mothers. At the same time as the parenting advice industry has exhausted and overwhelmed mothers, it's shortchanged fathers. There's no clear destination online or in real life for men aiming to learn how to become better fathers. And this gap in advice, with women presumed to be the ones doing the research and then passing on their findings to their presumably less able husbands, makes it harder to imagine parenting as a partnership. The world I want for families is one in which all parents are assumed to be capable caregivers, and where we believe that caregiving is something anyone can learn. When we stop assuming there's something magic about being a woman or getting pregnant that makes mothers the superior parent, that opens up more space for fathers and for non-birthing parents and foster and adoptive parents and step-parents to build loving relationships with kids. Instead of one perfect mom, children need many warm, friendly people. The researchers who've been most influential in shaping our ideas about what makes a good mom assumed a very specific kind of family shape. Middle-class, straight married couples where the woman was at home caring for the baby. As a result, their research focused solely on the relationship between child and primary caregiver, and tended to ignore anyone else who might be helping. In contrast, when anthropologists study childhood around the world, they find an incredible amount of variation in how children are raised. The one commonality is shared care, or alloparenting. And that can mean everything from aunts, grandparents, and older siblings helping out, to play dates among neighbors and daycare centers. Families from around the world, from the Philippines to Congo to Sweden, raise children in strikingly different ways. But in basically none of them does the mother do the work alone. As anthropologist Margaret Mead put it, what children need most is not one perfect mom, but the care of many warm, friendly people.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, listeners, you can get a copy of The Good Mother Myth wherever you get your books. I'm Michael Kovnat. Hope to see you tomorrow.